Okay, so there's this story, a really famous one from India, about a divine dance that takes place in a moonlit forest. It's called the Rāsa-līlā. But here's the thing. This is not your average story, not by a long shot. In fact, it's considered so incredibly deep, so confidential, that for centuries, spiritual masters have been warning people not to just jump in and hear it without the proper understanding. Just to give you an idea of how serious this is, get this. The great spiritual teacher Srila Prabhupada, the one who brought these teachings to the West, was once cornered by someone who was just insisting on hearing about it. And his response was, "You may be fit to hear Rāsa-līlā, but I do not feel qualified to speak it." I mean, wow, that is an absolutely powerful statement. Why on earth would a master feel unqualified to talk about a pastime of God?
Well, it's because in the Vaishnava tradition, the Rāsa-līlā isn't just some story. It's seen as the absolute pinnacle, the most sublime and confidential of all spiritual pastimes. You could think of it as like the PhD level of theology. It's the ripened fruit of all the Vedic knowledge. And this really brings us to the core question, right? Why? Why is a story about a divine dance handled with, such extreme caution? What is it that makes it so potent and, potentially dangerous if you misunderstand it? That's exactly what we're going to unpack here.
Okay, so to really get a handle on the warnings, we first have to know the story itself. So let's go back. What actually happened on that moonlit night? So the scriptures paint this incredible picture. It's a beautiful autumn night in the forest of Vrindavana. There's a full moon rising, and it's casting this kind of reddish glow on everything. The air is cool, and it's filled with the scent of jasmine flowers. And it's on this night that Krishna, who at the time is just 8 years old, picks up his flute. And the reaction to the sound of this flute, it was immediate and it was total. The Gopīs, these are the young cowherd maidens of the village. The moment they hear it, they just abandon everything. I mean, some of them are in the middle of milking cows, others have milk boiling on the stove, some are literally serving dinner to their families, and they just drop it all. They ignore their husbands, their fathers, everyone telling them not to go, and they just rush to the forest, their hearts completely captured by this sound.
Now, when they get there, Krishna actually tests them. He tells them, "You should go home, serve your families." But their reply just shows how deep their commitment was. They say, "Our feet cannot move one step from your lotus feet. How could we possibly go back to Vraj? And besides, what would we even do there?" You see, they had already given up everything for him, in their hearts and minds.
So seeing this incredible, pure devotion, Krishna agrees, and the rasa dance begins. And this is where something truly miraculous happens. So he could dance with every single gopi at the same time. Personally, he expands himself. He duplicates himself so that each and every one of them felt that Krishna was right there, by her side, holding her hand. Okay, so that's the story on the surface level. But to really, really understand why there are so many warnings about it, we have to go way deeper. And this is where we have to talk about the difference between spiritual love and, well, what we usually think of as love. And the key word we need to understand is rasa. Now, it doesn't just mean dance or pastime. A rasa is actually a specific kind of spiritual relationship, a unique flavor of a relationship you can have with God. The whole idea is that every relationship we have in our lives, friendship, being a parent, romantic love, all of them are actually just distorted reflections of these original, completely pure spiritual relationships. And it's not just one kind of relationship either. The texts lay out 5 main rasas, and each one gets more and more intimate. You've got neutrality, then servitude, then friendship, parental affection, and then at the very top, the one that's expressed in the Rāsa-līlā, madhurya, or conjugal love. And that's considered the highest expression of them all. And here is the absolute core distinction. The love we're talking about in the Rāsa-līlā is not what we usually call love down here. The texts draw this really sharp, clear line between spiritual love, which is called prema, and material lust, or kama. See, one is all about giving, just to please the person you love. The other is all about getting something for yourself. One is completely selfless and leads to eternal bliss. The other, it's inherently selfish and, let's be honest, usually just leads to frustration. This difference is so crucial that the Bhāgavatam goes out of its way to say that this dance happened on the platform of Yoga Maya. That's God's internal, purely spiritual energy. It did not happen in what's called Mahamaya. That's the external illusory energy that runs our world. There's a perfect analogy for this. It's like the difference between gold and iron. Yeah, they're both metals, but you wouldn't say they're the same, would you? Their quality is worlds apart. The Rāsa-līlā is pure spiritual gold.
All right, so now that we have all this context, let's circle back to our big question. Why all the strong warnings? Who is actually fit to hear this story? And the tradition gives a very direct answer. Srila Prabhupada says it flat out. Only a person completely free of material desires is fit to hear the Rāsa-līlā. Otherwise, we will confuse it with worldly affairs. So you see, the qualification has nothing to do with how many books you've read or how smart you are. It's about purity of heart.
So the danger is all about misinterpretation. It's that simple. If you don't have that spiritual maturity, you will inevitably, you can't help but, project your own worldly ideas of romance and sensuality onto this completely divine, selfless act of love. You'll look at spiritual gold and think it's just plain old material iron. And when that happens, you not only miss the whole point, but you can actually harm your own spiritual progress.
And that's why the tradition lays out a very specific, step-by-step approach. You just can't jump to the end. The Srimad Bhāgavatam itself is compared to the body of the Lord. You're supposed to start at the beginning with the first canto, which is like his lotus feet. Then you move up, canto by canto, building a really solid foundation of who God is. Only after you've made that whole journey do you finally get to the 10th canto, which is like Krishna's smiling face. And that's where you find the Rāsa-līlā.
And listen, this isn't some new rule they just made up. Lord Chaitanya, who is a huge figure in this tradition from about 500 years ago, he set the perfect example. I mean, he had thousands and thousands of followers, but he never discussed these incredibly confidential topics in public. Not once. He saved them for only his 3 most intimate, most advanced followers. That just goes to show you how protected this knowledge is supposed to be.
So, where does that leave us? What's the ultimate takeaway here? What's the point of a story that's supposed to be the highest of the high, but is also kept under lock and key?
Well, the Rāsa-līlā is presented as the absolute summit of Krishna consciousness. It's the highest, the purest, the most complete expression of selfless, divine love you can possibly imagine, where the soul gives absolutely everything, holding nothing back, just for the pleasure of God. But here's the beautiful paradox in all of this. While hearing it the wrong way can be a problem, the scriptures promise that if you hear it faithfully from the right source, the result is incredible. It says that person quickly frees oneself from lust, the disease of the heart. So you see, the story isn't supposed to be entertainment. It's actually a powerful medicine. So what should we really take away from all this? Well, for one, it completely turns our idea of love on its head, redefining it as pure, selfless giving. It also shows us a spiritual goal that's not just about thinking or philosophy, it's deeply emotional. It teaches us that the deepest truths aren't just for anyone who's curious. They require real qualification. And maybe most fascinating of all, it points to a path where the highest possible bliss is also the most protected secret. And that really leaves us with something to think about, doesn't it? What does it truly mean for a teaching to be both the ultimate goal, the very thing you're striving for on a spiritual path, and at the exact same time be considered too dangerous for most people to even hear?